Let's dive right into our presentation with Joe Nickolls, the VP of Maxis in charge of The Sims. And then after that, I will join him for a conversation and a fireside chat.
So thank you. Really good to be back here in Vancouver. I'm here to talk about Maxis. I'm here to talk about The Sims and talking about some of the things that we've done for years and years and years, and how we've relied very heavily on our partners as we outsource to make this incredible game. Usually what happens is I tell people I work at EA, and they go, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I work at Maxis." And they go, "Oh, yeah, Maxis. Yeah, they're still around, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yes, still around." And then they usually say, "Oh, yeah, my girlfriend used to play The Sims." You still make The Sims? I said, yes, we do still make The Sims, and it is incredibly popular, even 5 years in on Sims 4, doing just huge, huge numbers. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So a very quick timeline of what we have done with The Sims. We have been around for almost 20 years. We'll be entering our 20th year of The Sims next year. And Sims has been around in Sims 4 format for entering our 5th year. And we do a lot of stuff. It's not just about, the Sim going, having to go to the bathroom. It's much more than that. It's getting hit by lightning. It's mermaids, as you saw, and a whole bunch of other really, really amazing content that we have coming out over the next year. Sims has always been about customizing as well. And a lot of the customization items that we put in the game come from people like you that help us make this kind of stuff. So I know there are some people in the room here that have worked with Maxis in the past. And helped us create this amazing stuff. We have state-of-the-art tools that let you kind of create your own thing. And if anybody is like most people, they end up watching a lot of HGTV, and they end up watching a lot of home renovation shows and flip this house and do this, do that. We've been doing this for a long time on The Sims. We let you do all this kind of stuff. We let you build your dream house. We let you put your furniture where you want and kind of really create just about anything you can dream of. I remember we're constantly updating the game. We put an update in the game that let people raise and lower terrain, and people lost their mind because all of a sudden they could have multi-level houses and multi-level terrain. And then we do little things like we'll put out a new color of a countertop, and the place just goes crazy of a new color for the countertop. So it just goes to show how creative and how fun the product has been and continues to be. So The Sims has always been about something that we call play with life. Make the life that you currently have, make the life that would be super weird, or make the life you really wish you had. And we give you the tools to do that. And again, all these tools that we do these things with come a lot of it happens because of our partnerships with our external development partners. And we make a lot of stuff. So we have our base game, which is all about getting people into the product and playing the game. It comes with everything you need to play the game. But we also have expansion packs. You just saw our latest one, which is Island Living. Expansion packs are things that give you new worlds and new careers and new features in the game. We do a ton of those. We also do a ton of game packs, which is kind of like a little bit smaller, but still a really robust experience. And then we have stuff that is called stuff packs, which is, wait for it, stuff. And we're really pleased because we are now about to release our 30th expansion pack for Sims 4. We've been making expansions since day one, but our 30th expansion pack will come out in the next few months for Sims 4. And as you can see, 30 million expansions downloaded. It's absolutely insane, the reach of this product. And We do lots and lots and lots of stuff, and every single pack you see up here is something that many of you have contributed to help us get to. And it's a worldwide phenomenon. The thing about The Sims is it really has no boundaries, it has no borders, and so what we are really, really proud of is the fact that it reaches so many people in so many different countries on all formats. And just this year alone, we added 6 million more players to the product. Now, that's exciting for any product in its first year, but you look at a product that has been out for going to its 5th year, and we just added 6 million more people that are playing The Sims 4 in its 5th year. It's pretty incredible. And so we're delighted with where this is going. I'm going to show you something that is, I'm going to show you a video in just a minute that's very important to us. But the one thing that we've always felt about The Sims is we've always had a really great community, great connection with our community. We give them different ways to interact with us, whether they do it on Twitch or they put it on YouTube or what have you. We have a really, really robust community that likes to express themselves and talk about the ways that they have been able to create their own situations and environments with The Sims. We have a thing called Game Changers, which is people that we kind of bring into the fold. They're just regular folks that are really, really passionate about what we do at EA and The Sims, and that we bring them in and we give them early access to things, and we let them show other people some of the cool new stuff that is coming. So we're really good community outreach. But the one thing that I'm the most proud of with The Sims is how diverse we are, how we celebrate diversity, and how we celebrate self-expression. I have a video that I'm going to play for you, and then Victor and I are going to have a chat. But the video is going to show you basically everything you really need to know about how important The Sims is to millions of people throughout the world.
It's a very interesting thing to explain.
I would describe it as no boundaries, no barriers.
Things can happen that you would not expect.
I did make a clone and get pregnant with my sister's husband.
I can do stuff and not get punished for it. It sounds so bad.
That's the most fun part for me, because you get to be whatever you want.
You learn so much and you grow so much as a person because you figure out there's this whole new world outside from what you know.
I always thought that the term beautiful meant blonde hair and blue eyes.
One time I went to my mom and asked her, why am I black? Like, why wasn't I born white? And I found myself to be the only black child in my school. I was discriminated, I was bullied. My skin tone, my height, and my teeth.
I was my dad's, like, little buddy, you know? He called me Scooter. When I prayed, God, don't make me transgender, it wasn't just because I didn't want to lose my parents. It was because I didn't like myself for that.
I remember being 15 and being elated that I was finally older than the number of surgeries I'd had at that time. I was depressed and alone and sitting on a couch in pain. The Sims gave me an outlet where I could go out and live a life.
The Sims is a place where I was free to do whatever I wanted and be whoever I wanted and explore who I was.
As I got more comfortable with my character in the game, I got more comfortable with myself.
It's almost kind of like the perfect society in a way.
Of course, I created a little bit of drama.
Everyone does it. They live for the drama.
Create my own hot guy. I'm like building up the muscles on them.
There's drama, but there's more love. You know what I'm saying?
The Sims is really the only place where I had this ultimate freedom. I played to build me.
I played to feel good about myself.
I play to create the world I want.
I play to learn.
To make drama.
Do crazy things.
To be different.
To have confidence.
Find myself. It's more than a game. It's life.
Joe Nickolls.
Victor Lucas.
I love that video.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it sends chills down your spine. Does it, look, it's us.
Look at that picture.
That's amazing.
That was a hotel room picture. Someone took me and they used it.
Mine too. Yeah. Was it an instant yes when they said, we want you to come down and be the VP of Maxis?
Yeah. I was happy minding my own business at Capcom.
Yep.
And I had done 10 years at EA already previously, and they called me and they said, we have something really cool that I think you might like.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, well, what do they do in California? And they said, well, it's Maxis. I'm like, oh yeah, sign me up. I'm down with that. So, yeah.
Let's give a round of applause to Maxis, because honestly, it is an incredibly important company. And I think that we take it for granted a little bit, as you mentioned in your talk there. You know, like The Sims was such a seminal idea and a concept, and it was so fresh. And when we talked offline before we were going to do this panel, I told you that a couple things. One of them is that I created a fantasy image of what my family was going to look like in The Sims, and it came true a little bit, which is mind-bending. But also SimCity from Maxis was the very first CD-ROM game that I ever played, and it kind of started me on my my journey to create Electric Playground. And I feel like you must get those stories from, or those kinds of stories from people everywhere for how important the history of Maxis is.
Yeah, we do. We have a really vocal community, and a lot of people will send us emails or videos or what have you, talking about what The Sims has meant to them, or even people coming and asking us, hey, I remember Maxis back in the day, maybe you're going to do this again, you're going to do this again. And so, we do consider all those things. But you're right. I remember SimCity was the first game that I was up like almost all night. My wife came out in the living room. She goes, what are you doing on this crappy 386 SX computer playing the SimCity? It's kind of cool to be part of a brand that has been around that long.
Well, and I think as it pertains to XDS as well, the Sims and its concept of online content generation and user-created content, I think it really dovetails into this whole idea of having external partners. It was the install base, it was the players building a lot of material, but I'm sure that sort of blossomed and grew into your opportunity to partner with lots of different companies everywhere.
Absolutely. You think about you watch a movie and then you remember the director and the producer and a few of the actors, and then you forget about the army behind it that actually made the movie happen.
Yeah.
And it's a lot like that in video games, and it's certainly like that with Maxis. We have a lot of people down in California that are making this game. We have a lot of people that aren't in California helping us make this game. Because it's just so, the volume is huge.
So it's a mix of players that can create and share things.
Yep.
Still to this day.
Yep.
It's the expansion packs that get built within the confines of Electronic Arts, but also your partners out there.
Right.
And it's a mix and match of everything. And I guess people that play the games find their way through all of this content and pick and choose what they want.
Yeah. We have a thing called the gallery, and the gallery is something you can go to in the game or you can go to on your PC online. And that's where people upload and download stuff.
Yeah.
The amount of content that we have in there is really mind-blowing. Average about 12 million downloads a month of stuff.
Wow.
That people just go, oh, that's really cool. I want that couch. I want that family. When Bohemian Rhapsody won for Best Picture at the Golden Globes, wham! People made Queen and uploaded Queen. Everyone was downloading Queen, and it was actually really cool.
That's awesome. Big change from Dead Rising 4.
Yeah.
And killing zombies. Was this uncharted territory? Was that a big part of it for you as well? Because you'd had a history in sports games and working with Electronic Arts for a long time. I remember talking to you when you were working on the tennis game that EA had. But had you ever worked on anything like The Sims before?
No. The Sims is kind of, compared to most of the things I've worked on, is almost like a Zen-like experience.
Yeah.
Because everyone wins. I mean, there's no winner or loser in something like The Sims. But I've been really, really lucky for doing what I do. And I usually tell people, they ask me about, games and stuff, and they're like, I'm the person my sisters call when their phone doesn't work. I'm the tech guy.
Sure. I think we're all that.
We're all the tech guy, right?
Yes.
A lot of tech guys. And
yeah.
Like, I can't get the TV to work. Push the input button. Well, where's the input button? So I get a lot of that. But I usually tell people I'm actually not particularly very good at making games, but I pride myself on putting good teams together that make games, because I can recognize really great people that we can put into place to make the product, and they're the ones that do it.
Did you come to games because you've had a career in the entertainment business prior to this?
Yeah.
What was the first sort of pro gig that you had?
In games?
In general, in entertainment.
I
think if you go back into the 80s and 90s, there's a lot of people that have come from other industries to video games, and you're one of those.
So I was a DJ.
Yeah.
You might have noticed.
Got the DJ voice.
The voice is probably
very, very good.
The subwoofers are in trouble.
Very deep.
I was a DJ. I went to BCIT, ended up at Z95. I was there for the launch. I had hair down to here.
Awesome.
I had the unfortunately bestowed name of JoJo, which some people still call me to this day. Thank you very much. But I was a radio dude.
Yeah.
Worked in radio for a while, and then ended up transferring from. I programmed all the music for Z95, and then I was on air. And then I went to work at a record company because I didn't want to be on air anymore. I mean, it was fun for a while, but I didn't want to do it anymore. So I ended up working at Polygram, which is now Universal. So if anybody's ever seen Spinal Tap, that guy, hi, I'm Artie Fufkin, Polymer Records. I was that guy for a while in Vancouver. And then literally went out to a pub, and we were going to, I still remember exactly where it happened. We went to Granville Island, and went to a pub in Granville Island, and we were meeting some friends. And the friends we were meeting had a next-door neighbor that had nothing to do that day, so they brought him along, and he turned out he was an exec producer at Radical Entertainment.
Oh, wow. Who was that?
That was Kevin Wilkinson.
Oh, Kevin.
Who's now at Hothead.
Yeah.
But I met Kevin. I owe him a great deal. And so we ended up going to this pub, meeting Kevin, talking about games. He said, what do you do? I said, I'm a record company guy. And he goes, oh my God, that's so cool. And we ended up talking. Long story short, ended up at Radical just to have a tour. Figured I'd do a marketing presentation for him, and then met with Ian Wilkinson and Rory Arms. And halfway through the interview, they said, you should be a game producer. I'm like, sure, what's that? Which happens today, right? Right, that happens today. You just walk in and say whatever, and they just hire you.
Well,
and that happened.
There is I think, a correlation to the diversity and inclusion kind of agenda that the industry has. This very important agenda that the industry is adopting in a more vocal way. Part of that is to think outside of the box and to bring people in with different skill sets and different perspectives that will change the way that we look at video games and create them, right? And I admire the video game industry for being, and it had to be. There's no way for it to have grown to the size that it is without taking risks on people like yourself. Did you come into this business with a love of games or an appreciation of what they were? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I was, it's almost like that feeling when you go to a support group meeting and you get up to the microphone, it's like, hi, I'm Joe, and I play video games. Back then it was kind of like, oh, you dork, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I was totally into video games, and I still remember my first day at Radical. They said, welcome to the team, and my onboarding process was basically, there's the desk. And I had to carve my way through getting to know how games are made, and I had to know the difference between a pipeline and a targa file. And so it was really, really weird. I had no idea what I was doing, but the team that I was with was really gracious and helped me. And just bringing that human element, and that's the most important thing, bringing the human element of what we do into video games is really, really important.
Yeah.
You can look at back-of-the-box features and say, we have, 24, 48, et cetera, multiplayer. We have, the cloud, which solves all the problems and all these things. But it really comes down to the human ingenuity and creativity that we bring every day.
Right.
Because most of the stuff that you really need to pull out of video game people is just normal stuff. Like, as a consumer, what would you like to do? What do you want to see?
Yeah.
And then you bring that in, and we find a way to make that happen.
Within the time and budget constraints. Yes.
Yes.
And finding a way to
keep your
deadline. Team happy and everybody working together in a single direction.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. It was easier back then, but everything was easier back then.
Everything was.
Everything was easier.
Were you intimidated by the technology of it all? Was it? Because I worked for 4 months in development between seasons of my show, and I have to admit that the idea of programming just freaked me the hell out. I just felt completely like, what is happening? I did not know how to kind of find a footing there.
The technology didn't freak me out because I knew I didn't actually have to use it the way that they used it. The smart guys used it.
They were really smart.
All the smart guys did it. I remember there was a moment at Radical, and there was a programmer who his name was Mike Biddlecombe. Remember Mike?
Yep. He worked at Gas Power.
That's right.
Yeah.
Biddle.
Right. Yeah.
I was this new loud guy. Big surprise. And what does this guy? JoJo, yeah. And what does this guy know about video games? And so I remember I was in a team room, and I remember that team room vividly because there was a lot of people that still work in the industry today, and we were making. We had just finished NHL Power Play 98, and we were starting to work on a new hockey game, and they were trying to see if I was literally the village idiot or I had something of substance. And I remember talking to Mike, and he said, yeah, we can't get the AI to work. The AI is shot. And I'm like, what's wrong with it? And he goes, well, the target file's corrupted. And I'm like, what would a target file have to do with the EA? It's a graphics file. And then he looked around at the room and he goes, okay, he knows enough about what we're doing, because that was like my big moment. That was my big test. And
you can stay.
And then I can hold my head up high and then go back and like just, completely fall apart in my office. Like, oh my God.
The days when there were multiple companies making multiple sports games. But
yeah.
all of the hockey was made in Vancouver.
I know, right? Yeah, well, Curtis sitting in the front row, Curtis Charrington, who works with EA now, but I met Curtis, I think in 99 or 2000, and we were making, I remember we went to E3, and that's when E3 was in Atlanta.
I was there.
Because they would switch back and forth, right? So we went to Atlanta, and we were doing this ESPN hockey game with Disney.
I remember when Radical was going to be a publisher.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we went down to Atlanta, and it was all great. And we had this cool new thing where you could actually update your team with the internet with a plug-in phone modem, and it was the future. And then E3 was just kind of wrapping up, and then we found out that Disney had actually dropped us halfway through the show. And we're like, oh, so what do you do, right? You're standing on stage. Look at all this great stuff. It's never coming out. And then at the time, Fox Interactive wrote into our rescue and said, we're going to make Fox Hockey with you guys.
That's
and that was the first hockey game. And that's when EA was still a sports centered, but there was competition.
Yeah.
People that would go after them, and that was our first one. And that's when Fox Hockey had the puck that had the streak behind it.
That's right.
Which was this
very controversial.
Any Canadians in here that are just kind of gagging right now with the whole Fox puck streak? We had to put that in the game. It felt good on a video game because it was a video game.
It was so cartoony.
I know, right?
So you got your start making sports titles with Radical.
Yep.
And how long after that did EA first pull you into the mothership?
So I'd been at Radical for about 2 years, and then when all the weirdness went on, when we switched developers, switched publishers, a number of people had left, and they went to EA.
Yep.
And one of them was a person that I admired a lot, and that I wanted to kind of follow him. So I talked to EA, and I was going to go work on hockey, and then I was
because back in that day too, like the stuff that Radical was making was incredible. Like
Radical was the first company that made three-dimensional hockey,
and it was very, very well received.
Yeah,
and so there was this real competition happening, and I guess EA wanted some of that technology.
Yeah, and they grabbed a bunch of people, and I went there, and then Ian Wilkinson talked me out of it. Said, "No, stay with us and do this other stuff," and I ended up staying.
Didn't Kevin go to EA?
Kevin went to EA. Kevin was the one that I was going to follow.
Brothers, one of them stayed.
Yeah, that was weird.
And one of them went to EA. Yes.
Yeah, that must have been Thanksgiving. Must have been fun at the Wilkinson house after that day. But then they talked me into staying, and then I got a call from Brent Nielsen, who was doing baseball, and he really wanted to talk to me about coming over. And for the record, I hate baseball. I love sports, but baseball's not my thing.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, you do not want to hire me for baseball. And they said, no, we do, because your media experience and all the TV stuff. I was like, okay, well, all right, well, we'll see. And so I went for a meeting with EA, and Brent Nielsen was there, and then another guy was there named Bill Harrison. And Bill ran FIFA. And halfway through the lunch, Bill said, you're probably wondering why I'm here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of wondering why you're here. And he said, yeah, I actually like to offer you a job on FIFA. And I looked at Brent, and I went, sorry, man. It's been nice. Thanks for doing all the work, but I'm going to go with this dude. And went to and worked on
EA's
FIFA.
so big, they have internal competition.
I know, right? Yep, it was at Milestones, and that's where it all happened. But I ended up going to work on FIFA, and I did that. And I ended up staying at EA for nearly a decade.
Amazing. And so FIFA for a while. Launched
did
tennis.
FIFA for a bit, and then after about a year or two, Bill came to me and said, could you build a new team that could do Euro?
Right.
And so we did a Euro championship game. That turned into Champions League, and then I ended up going to World Cup, and then FIFA Street. And then we did a tennis game. We did NHL Slapshot, which was the Wii with a hockey stick thing.
Oh yeah,
that was insane.
Loved FIFA Street. Loved those street games.
Yeah,
really
that was super fun.
Would bring those back. Those were amazing.
Yeah, no, FIFA Street was really fun.
So, as it pertains to the people that are in the audience that have come to XDS, you were around early enough in the video game industry where the appetite and the need for partners in development started to happen. When did that start to happen in your sphere, and what did you first start to kind of notice about these partnerships that you had with
I think it was FIFA.
Yeah.
Because, I remember when I got to FIFA, when I first started working on FIFA, I knew the greatest hits of soccer teams, right? I knew Man United, I knew all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a FIFA fan, you know how deep that game goes, right? You know how many teams it has, and how many stadiums that they had to have. And so my first experience with that whole outsourcing thing was you had to make kits, you had to make soccer kits or football kits for all the teams, and then the stadiums. And so we had a lot of people making stadiums and uniforms or kits because the sheer volume. Right, if you look just at the Premiership, how many teams they had, like 20 odd, and then they all had home and away kits, and they had special kits, and they had a different kit, and you do that for just the Premiership, and then you have the Bundesliga, and then you have Serie A, and you have all these different leagues, and they all come with all these teams. Then you go down to the sub-level teams, and they all have stuff, and the volume was insanity.
Yeah.
And so that was my first experience with.
And how do you determine at that level, when it's still kind of early days for external development, what is appropriate? Like, what partner is appropriate to do this kind of work?
I think back in that day, it was people would get on a plane and fly out and look at their monitors. Because that was back before you could just live stream or send anybody anything. So it was literally these poor people going all over the world and going into these places.
There's a lot of trust.
Some of these places were just unbelievable. It's like, well, what's your IP security? And they go, well, we have a curtain. It's like literally, I'm not making this up. We have a curtain so people can't see the stuff they're working on. I'm like, well, that's pretty secure. Can't hack that. But it was literally people on planes going to check things out. And then gradually, the transfers would come by. Even back then, people would create things and the compression technology wasn't there to send it over. And, literally one soccer jersey would come by and we're like, okay, when's it coming?
What
An hour later.
What are we talking about time-wise?
That would have been
2003?
About 2003, 2004.
Right.
Around then.
So I often think about Electronic Arts Canada, which is based here in Vancouver, as kind of setting the tone or the groundwork for like the studio model that a lot of the video game industry went on to adopt. Mm-hmm. Radical was born out of that.
Yep.
Is it safe to say that the needs, content-wise, for games like FIFA kind of helped to, mature the external development scene a little bit as well? And did you guys send some best practices off to these other companies?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of what we had been doing with FIFA demanded that we had to have help to do it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people look at EA Canada, EA Vancouver. It's a big studio, but at the time, initially there was just off the freeway there was like a top few levels of something beside the casino, total dodgy building, and then when they built the new building, it was this new state-of-the-art cool thing that looked like the Vorlon Invader, for any nerds out there that know what I'm talking about. It really, because we had very insightful people that thought, wow, this soccer and football thing might be a thing. Because it didn't mean anything in North America at the time.
Right.
And yet, Western Canada ended up making the biggest video game of all time.
Right.
And just the scope and the scale and to do that. And back then, Vancouver didn't have a giant tech community either, right? I mean, it was all forestry and mining and tourism, and now it's completely changed the landscape. And so, I think that certainly FIFA was the thing that kind of put everything on the map.
So now, after a couple of decades in the business and the maturation, where a lot of us are on that page. What have you noticed about the external development partners that you work with nowadays? What has changed, and what attracts you to them for new business and for partnerships?
I think initially what people approached it as, we can get stuff made on the cheap, right? That used to be what it was, and it's not anymore. Now it's about quality and speed. How can you get me great quality at great speed? And
consistency?
Yeah. It's consistency is very important. So when you look at companies that help us make stuff, as they build a relationship with us, they get used to our tools, they get used to how we want to receive things. they're just getting faster and faster and better and better and better.
Right.
And so and it's not just outsourcing artwork and objects. It's, sometimes we have, technology being done for us in other places and tools and whatnot. Like the world is really a smaller place now.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you can sit and you can do something, and I can say, I'm finished this thing, and I can send it to you, and you'll have it in seconds.
Yeah.
And it's just the speed to which we get things, and how fast we can say, no, not that, and edit things.
And I guess FIFA contributed a lot to that as well, right? Because I think it was one of the first. It's such a global game. It's like in all senses of the word, right? It's made here in Canada.
Yep.
With participation and help all over the world.
Yeah, we got a boatload of people in Romania that helped that journey out too, right?
Yeah.
And EA's FIFA, for that matter, is one of these products that it does take a globe to make this thing happen because it's such a massive game.
Has that been a bit of a struggle for the other teams at EA, that they just can't crack that global kind of scale?
Maybe some. It depends on what format and what product you're making, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many countries in the world that you have to kind of tailor your content to appeal to. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, for The Sims, for example, right? The Sims is worldwide, and I could talk, forever about The Sims. But The Sims really has a worldwide audience, and some of our, one of our largest territories is Brazil.
Right.
Right. And when most people say The Sims, most people go, "Oh yeah, that's really hot in Brazil right now." Like no one says that, but it is.
Brazil loves video games. Like
they do.
Like one of our mutual friend Tommy Tellerico, who does the Video Games Live tour, goes to Brazil, and they have like a week stay, and people are freaking out. It's sold out every single night.
Yep.
They love games down there.
Yep. South America is a huge burgeoning market. I remember years ago I went to, I think it was called EVA in Buenos Aires. And I'd never been to Buenos Aires before, and what a beautiful city and incredible place. And we were there, and I was there for the beginning of talks with a relationship with this little company called Globant. What is this little Globant thing? Well, now it's massive, right? But I remember going there and spending some time with those guys and really going in very naive about things. It's like, I'm going to Buenos Aires. It's like a total other country. Aren't they adorable working on technology? and then you get there and you're like, oh my God, these dudes totally know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And just seeing that these different territories and markets are so huge, and why wouldn't they be good at games? Just because we started it. Actually, Japan started it, right? But other countries are quick to follow, and their tech and talent and product and quality is second to none.
What has kept you with EA? You've been there and you've left there and you've come back, but what is it about EA that is special for you?
It's a couple things. One thing is the people. I really enjoy the people. Like everyone there wants to be there because they want to make great entertainment.
Right.
And they pride themselves on that. And when I walk around on the floor at Maxis and see the stuff they're doing, and all the stuff that's left on the cutting room floor, it's like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Why can't we do that? It's like, well, because I do all that. And so I love the creativity and all the really great stuff. EA is a good company to work for. EA is, they have a lot of values that are important to me. Diversity and inclusion, very important to me.
Yep.
Certainly in this day of Reddit trolls and all the stuff that goes on and all the horribleness that is associated with games sometimes, I really admire the fact that EA does not put up with that. They don't stand for that. They protect their people. They try to keep people safe. They really care about their people. It's a good company. They do right. They give back a lot. And, it's EA. It's like, it's this massive company.
Right.
It's easy to throw rocks at a company like EA.
Yeah.
But I think what most people have to remember is that EA is just like everybody else. There's people like you and me and you are all working at a company, and we're all normal people.
Yeah.
But I think EA...
what happens is that there is that consistency, that persistence kind of quality about a company that large, and people take it for granted,
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's important to kind of reflect and talk about where this company has come from and what it has provided into the world. And it all started from this idea that Trip Hawkins and Ben Gordon and the other early days, they just wanted to really honor the art of games and the art of entertainment that way, or the interactive entertainment.
Yeah. And I think that EA has always been very pioneering in some of the stuff that they've done, we see a lot of EA started the careers of a lot of other people that have gone on to be successful at other companies.
Yes.
Right? There's lots of amazing video games that are out there, and if you just go through those game companies, you will always find a ton of people that have somehow gone through EA as part of their journey.
Right.
Right?
It's been in the news with troubles with Star Wars.
Yep.
But we have new Star Wars coming soon. Can't wait.
And there's some. I want to touch on that.
Yeah.
So there was a GamesBiz article about Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
I actually sent a note over to the guys at DICE. Because when Battlefront 2 came out, there was some mixed reviews. Obviously, there was some challenge with that product. It would have been very easy for us to just go, oh well, gonna fumble that one and move on to something else shiny, and they didn't. And that core team that actually worked on Battlefront 2 has stayed together, and they have fixed the problems, and they have turned that community from negative to overwhelmingly positive.
Right.
And it's one of those things that it's easy to forget that there's a number of people that this is their livelihood and this is what they do. And those guys at DICE went, you know what? I was talking to one of the guys over there, Oscar, that runs the studio, and said, when that game came out and the press and publicity, there was a lot of people that just looked in the mirror and they didn't like what they saw. They felt horrible. They said, "But we worked so hard on this. And everyone's mad at us."
Yes.
And they said, well, "Okay, we can lick our wounds and feel sad for a while, but let's go back and let's make it right." And they did. And if you haven't played Battlefront 2 in the last little while, maybe pick it up again and play it. You'll probably be really surprised at how much that has improved and how the community comes roaring back.
I think the developers across the industry kind of respect the hardship that negative launch buzz can create. And you feel it, I would imagine, no matter where you are within the development community.
Yeah.
Has it gotten worse? Has it gotten worse with more, everybody's got a podium, everybody's got a megaphone?
Yeah, I think that's the part of making games that is very challenging. And we are going through what other industries went through years and years ago, like movies. The movie is panned, and it's like a horrible movie, and everybody feels terrible. And but back then it was like being panned meant there was a critic or someone that had some pedigree, perhaps, that would talk about that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And now anyone with an internet connection can say horrible things about people.
Right.
And that affects people's lives. And I think that we have to remind ourselves that is the vocal minority of this stuff. That stuff makes news. That stuff people talk about, but what nobody talks about is the like 10% of let's talk about a Metacritic. Okay. Yeah. I was actually just had a cup of coffee with some friends over at Microsoft to make the Coalition, Gears 5.
Yeah.
And they were talking about...
Which is great, by the way.
Great game.
Yeah, if anybody from the Coalition is here right now, congrats. It's
nice job, guys. Really great.
Huge game.
And I was talking with a colleague about Gears 5, and they were saying, oh, yeah, they only gave us an 88. I'm like, kidding?
Yeah.
Only an 88. And I said, but you have to look at you have to look at this picture about something like Gears. If you asked 100 people, do you love this game? And 88 people went, we love this game. And 12 people went over there and said, we don't like this game.
Yeah.
If you look at it in that perspective, it's like, man, this is a smash.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and also, the launch of a game doesn't really matter that much anymore, does it?
No.
I mean, look at The Sims.
It's all about live service now. And live service is something that a lot of people like to throw that term around. But live service is really, I just categorize it as your relationship with us doesn't end when you buy the game. It's just beginning when you buy the game.
Right.
And people have expectations about how you will continue to be there for us.
Yes.
With the product that we put out. And it's really important.
My favorite games are the character-based action-adventure games. Those are the games like Zelda or Uncharted or Batman or Spider-Man. I love that stuff.
Yep.
But I also don't want to leave those worlds. Like Spider-Man was a perfect example. It was my favorite game of 2018.
Yep.
And Insomniac kept delivering DLC and stuff. But we are living in this, like, just give us more all the time kind of world.
Yeah.
And is that the way that you see games from here on out, and does that create ample opportunity for external developers to contribute? Forever?
Yes, to both.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of these things where people will pay for a product, and then they'll expect a certain level of live service, which we will provide. But at some point, you have to charge for it, right? Because you look at some games that go on, and people want to, just like you wanted to stay in Spider-Man world. Well, okay, well, if we want to employ all these people to make another place for Spider-Man to go and swing around and do all this cool stuff, you have to pay people to do that, and so it's that. How do you balance the work that we need to do to keep people delighted in playing these products? How do you balance that with the business needs of paying talented people to create that work
and to stay there?
Right.
Keep doing that. Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see a lot of change in the industry coming forward, where people will start looking at, more and more games are going to be coming free.
Yeah.
And more they're going to become ad-based game. We'll have ads running in order to support that.
Have you visited Riot? Have you ever gone to see the studios?
Not at the studio, no.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Pretty much around one game.
Right.
Right. And it's just massive.
Right.
So impressive. But it does feel, with things like League of Legends and with Fortnite and Stadia, that there is this huge sort of next evolutionary step that we're about to enter into with video games.
Yeah.
Can you see what that is going to be? And do you have an insider's perspective at what EA is kind of planning for the future?
Where's Paul Cairns, the legal guy? What he's doing? No. I think everyone in the room knows that the industry is going through a period of change.
Yeah.
Where there's going to be different pricing models and different pricing structures. Yes, with the advent of Stadia coming out, that's a thing, right? Microsoft and Sony, they're working on things too. Everyone is.
Yeah.
It really comes down to the content. If you can provide great content that compels people to come back again and again and again, and really provide a service and a good value for people, that's what's really going to win the day.
Right.
You look at subscription services. Of course, I'm from Vancouver, and I am still wrapping my head around all these amazing, neat American things that I get to do, like subscribe to all the stuff you can't get here.
I know.
But you look at some of the subscription services, certainly on TV and movies and whatnot, you see all this stuff, and you're overwhelmed with choices. But it's really about, is there really, really great content, right?
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, you look at Netflix and all the stuff they have, and then you look at Hulu and what Hulu has. Hulu doesn't have anything close to what Netflix has. Right? That's why they don't charge as much as Netflix. But it's really about making sure that you have a really great value proposition for people. It's like, I'm willing to join you on this journey because I think one of the greatest values, say what you will about Amazon, but I think one of the greatest value for a normal consumer is Amazon.
It's crazy.
You buy Amazon Prime.
I agree.
I got my money's worth out of Amazon Prime when I bought my wife a granite mortar and pestle.
Yeah.
Now, you don't know what that is. The thing you grind spices with. It was granite.
Currently download that in The Sims.
Yes. But it was granite. Weighed about 1 billion pounds. And free shipping. I think I got my whole year there. But you spend a little bit amount of money a month and you get free shipping. Then you also get a bunch of music. Now, say what you will about Amazon Music, it doesn't really compete really heavily with iTunes, or Apple Music rather, or Spotify. But they only have about 3 or 4 million songs, right? And for your average consumer, like play Elton John, it's going to play all the Elton John songs you want. You get Amazon Prime TV, you have all these things, so it's a great value for people. I think that people that will win the day will be the ones that provide the best value. In content. And, certainly for the video game industry, it's about the games.
Well, one of the things that differentiates video games from all of this other media and content that we talk about is we don't normally talk about the pricing. We don't talk about the cost of movie tickets. We talk about the cost of taking a family to a movie.
Yes.
And the parking and all that stuff. But we don't talk about the per-seat price. We don't talk about the price on Blu-rays. We don't talk about the digital download pricing.
Right.
With video games, and this is coming from, a reporter that's been talking about video games for my whole career, price is such an important part of the conversation. I feel it is a barrier to entry. I feel like it is a great detractor, and I think that that's what opened the door for mobile, and that's what's opened the door for League of Legends and Fortnite and other things like that, is people are just exhausted by these categories of having to decide where to spend money, that they'll just pick up something for free But there's a disposability in that as well, and an uncertainty in that as well. And we're seeing, huge risks and investments not work out in free-to-play.
Yes.
And I wonder if you think that we are going to go into a post-pricing kind of scenario with video games, where we maybe pay a monthly fee and we get all the video game content that we want.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of the industry moving towards that. I think that it's like when you see Best Buy has a Black Friday sale and they sell, a huge TV for like, $200.
Yeah.
But they only have 6 of them in the store, right? That drags you in there. And of course, you're not stampeding at 4 in the morning to get that TV. You see it show up and the TVs are gone, and you're like, ah. But then there's a whole bunch of other TVs that are like just a little bit more, right? So it's that thing that pulls you in. It's a loss leader, we call it. So I think what you're going to start seeing is you're going to start seeing more games that are going to offer you a chance to check the game out before you plunge in with a purchase.
Right, okay.
And give you a taste of what's to come. And if you decide you really want to do that, then we'll happily onboard you with stuff in the future. Case in point, Sims, we gave the game away for free a couple months ago. And it was bananas, like bananas. We thought, okay, let's see if we give the game away for free, would that help us? Is that the cost of entry barrier for people to decide whether they like the game or not? And millions of people downloaded the game, like millions over a 7-day period. And we found by doing that, there are some people that wanted to try The Sims, but they weren't sure, I don't know if it's really for me. If you buy a game on your phone for $1, right? Yeah. That's one thing. But if you're going to spend money on a Sims base game, that we found that was the barrier to entry for a lot of people to try it and see if they liked it, and they did like it. And now we have all these people that are playing the game, never played it before.
Did they convert? Did they end up buying it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They convert.
Wow.
Now, when you have millions of people converting, I mean, the conversion rate is very low. It's like a mobile game.
Yeah.
But we found that we have this whole new group of people that have never played The Sims before.
Right.
And they're playing it in different ways than we thought, because they're not the core people that would line up to buy the thing. And they're these casual people that have kind of joined it and go, oh, and we're watching how they play the game. And it's helping inform how we tailor the products in the future for what's important to them.
Right. Well, it also speaks to the fact that it's been a while, Joe, since we've had a new Sims game.
Yes.
Did you want to announce anything while you're here with this lovely
do
crowd
not.
Today? You want to tell us about anything new that might be happening with Sims?
I do not. But
and we did talk a little bit about the fact that EA's got this wonderful partnership around Star Wars, and wouldn't it be cool to have?
Oh my God! Look at this guy.
A little Star Wars Sims action.
I've been totally caught. Victor, that we do not talk about the stuff that we are making, but suffice to say that we have a lot of people at Maxis working on a lot of really new, amazing things.
Not necessarily Sim
that may or may not have a Sim in it.
Wow.
I'm super excited because we have a lot. I have some colleagues from work here, and that are directly involved in some of the new things we're doing at Maxis, and I'm super excited. But we will tell people when the time is right.
Any idea when that might be? I got to dig a little. That's my job.
I know. I'm trying to. How do I breadcrumb something that's cool and make people start conspiracy theories, but yet doesn't get me in trouble at work? You will start to see some stuff.
Sometime
earlier than 10 years, but longer than 1. How's that? Yeah. No. I kind of have to be vague because. We are working on some really amazing things, and I'm super excited about it. But as you know, sometimes you start making something and you go, I think I'm going to change.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you a very specific example. Sims 4, when it was initially starting to be made, the initial plan is that's when Warcraft is really hot, and they said, well, let's make an MMO. And had we gone out and said, we're making a Sims MMO, and then people all jump on that, and they go, oh my God, we're doing it. And then, we found that, and it's before my time, But they found that, yeah, this is not what we want to do. It's not what we're about.
Right.
It's about something else. And so they changed and they put out the product it is today.
Yeah.
So before we talk about anything that we're making, we want to make sure that we're really sure about what it is that we're going to announce.
Right. Yeah, there was the online issues with the SimCity game that came out. Yeah, there's been some big lessons for sure, and lots of transitional things and changes.
Yeah, and Maxis, Maxis has got, we have a studio in Finland, Track 20, and they're part of the Maxis group now, and they make SimCity Build It, and they're working on some super cool new stuff, and we've got a number of people working for Maxis in Austin, Texas now, and they're working on some cool stuff too. And when the time is right, we will talk about it. And I'm not, it sounds like I'm trying to be cagey, but I don't want to talk about anything that, saying, we're having pizza tonight, and then you show up and it's chicken. And it's like, you said pizza. I was like, well, it's still food.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Where does the announcement of a Sims, experience, what's the right fit? Is it E3? Because it feels like you could almost have your own thing. You could almost have like a Sims gathering.
Yeah, we do EA Play, right? Yeah. We often do things like that, but we like to tie it around. We like to tie announcements that we have around that feel timely.
Yeah.
Right. If anybody's making a Halloween thing, they announce around Halloween. They do a winter thing, they wait till the winter season starts. Right.
Right.
No one wants to talk about hockey in July.
Yeah.
So we try to plan it around what's going on in the world, so it becomes more relevant for people.
Cool. Star Wars is coming up.
I'm excited about Star Wars.
That was a ton of fun.
That was fun.
Everybody,
a little long-winded,
give it up for Joe Nickolls.
Thank you.